All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krueg Show with a little 49er video. Does Jalen Ramsey coming to the Niners make any sense? A lot of talk about Jalen Ramsey and where he's going to wind up, and he's a great player. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Does Ramsey to the Niners make sense? We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you by Claw Daddy Arcades. A great follow on the Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades to find a location near you. They got a brand new location in Capitola Mall down in the South Bay, and they have one down in Visalia Mall in the Central Valley. When you stop by, tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. They've got 3 locations right now in Southern California. And Claw Daddy Arcades is a fantastic company. And also, this video is sponsored by LearnKey Upskill Academy, an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less. So these guys are great, whether interested in any number of fields. They offer over 30 certification programs to help you take that next step in your professional career. So if you're underskilled, need more skills, need a new opportunity, they've been in business for 37 years. They've helped over 200,000 students along the way. They place about 100 every month in really well-paying jobs. So the links are in the description below. Thanks to LearnKey Upskill Academy for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg Show. We really do appreciate them. All right, let's talk about Jalen Ramsey. Does Jalen Ramsey make sense for the Niners? All right, let's talk about this guy because this guy is a terrific player, future Hall of Famer. He's now 30. He just recently signed. He signed a $72 million contract extension with the Dolphins last September. And it hasn't gone well. It hasn't gone well, and now they're going to trade him. They're not asking for a whole lot. And does this make sense? We'll get into it. Let's talk a little bit about Ramsey. He's 30 years old at this point. He's a 10-year veteran. He's a future Hall of Famer. This guy's awesome. 3-time All-Pro. Played his entire career basically in warm weather. He saw all this talk about he's going to the Steelers. He's not going to the Steelers. He's going to play on the West Coast. He's played in Jacksonville in warm weather. He's played with the Rams. He's played in Miami in warm weather. And he's a very smart player. That's why I love the guy. This guy was the 5th pick overall in the 2016 draft. He's a 7-time Pro Bowler, and he is a very smart football player. And I would be interested in Jalen Ramsey just to block him from going back to the Rams. So Ramsey and the Dolphins have already mutually agreed to part ways. That's already been agreed to. And why, you say? Well, Ramsey had a falling out with the Miami coaching staff and head coach Mike McDaniel. He spent the last 2 years in Miami, and a knee injury limited him to 10 games in the 2023 season, but he played a full season in 2024. He's under contract for the next 4 years. Miami, wanted to wait until after June 1st because of the cap ramifications of trading players before and after June 1st. So June 1st is come and gone. So they're looking to move this guy. And the talk is that he is going to be traded before camp starts. He wants to play for both a contender, that's the Niners, and he wants to play on the West Coast, that's the Niners. So there's reasons that this thing makes sense. Ramsey wants to play for a contender and be on the West Coast. Well, who are the contenders on the West Coast? The Niners, the Rams, and the Chargers. That's pretty much it. If you want to play on the West Coast. I guess you could argue Seattle. But he wants to play on the West Coast. He wants to play for a contender. He won a Super Bowl with the Rams. So the foregone conclusion is he's going back to the Rams. If I were the Niners, I'd get in the deal mix here just to make the Rams pay more. You don't want to see him go to the Rams. I don't want to see him go to the Rams. He's too good of a football player to just, watch him go to a team like the Rams and not contend for this player. So it's either the Rams, the Chargers. There was talk that Dallas was interested, or the Raiders, or the Panthers. They're all out. It's going to be a contender on the West Coast. It's funny. The question I think that a lot of people have is how much cash are the Dolphins willing to absorb as far as paying the money owed him to trade him. Adam Schefter says Ramsey will likely be traded by the time training camp opens in mid-July. He's got $21 million guaranteed on his deal in the 2025 season. Now, in addition to fitting the Niners because they're on the West Coast and they're a contender, Robert Saleh and Gus Bradley had Ramsey in Jacksonville. I believe Bradley was the head coach when Ramsey was drafted. So, I mean, Robert Saleh and Gus Bradley know Jalen Ramsey really, really well. Now, it doesn't make sense for the Niners because their stated goal is to get younger and cheaper, and this guy's not younger or cheaper. But the great part about a guy like Ramsey as opposed to Jair Alexander, Ramsey's more versatile. I don't know do the Niners know who's going to play safety for them? They're banking an awful lot on a 5'8" slot corner in Upton Stout to be able to man that position full time at the NFL level as a rookie. You're going to step right from Western Kentucky out of the third round and into the NFL, and you're going to be the full-time starter. I mean, that may be asking a lot. The Niners have question marks at both safety positions with the injury to Mustafa, the regression last year from Jair Brown. And here you got a guy who can play outside corner, nickel corner, free safety, strong safety. And he's a future Hall of Famer, and he's an incredibly smart football player. So, it'll be interesting because, the average safety in the NFL makes, not the average, but the going rate for a top-tier safety in the NFL is about $10 to $12 million a year. And this guy's due to make $21 million a year. So if he's going to get traded, or if the team, if the Niners want him at safety, you don't want a $21 million safety, despite the fact you got the cap room. So, there's going to have to be some amount of money paid off by the Dolphins to make this trade a reality. But a lot of people see Ramsey's value down the road as a safety. He's a smart player, as I said. He breaks on the ball. He's got incredibly long arms. And, think of Rod Woodson. Think of Charles Woodson. Think of Aeneas Williams. We're talking about Hall of Fame corners with size who finished up playing inside. And I think Ramsey could do the same thing. So the Niners have the cap space to absorb Ramsey's contract. They have a definite need in the secondary. They're on the West Coast. They are a contender. They have Gus Bradley and Robert Saleh who have a relationship. And then the bottom line is the cost. The talk is that the cost is going to be a pittance, that you're talking about a day 3 selection, a single day 3 selection for Jalen Ramsey. So I think the 49ers, this is a Hall of Fame player. This is a great, great football player. I know their stated goal is to get younger. I know they want to give Upton Stout a go. I know they've got 7 new corners they want to take a look at. But they also want to win a Super Bowl. And, there's a lot of youth in that secondary. There's a lot of question marks, both at safety and at corner. And if somehow you could get a player like Jalen Ramsey for, let's just say, a 2026 fifth-round pick, something like that, and have the Dolphins pay down some of that money, and you've got the cap space to pay this guy, and now you're covered if your young corners don't emerge. Now, in Upton Stout gets hurt. Now you're covered if your safeties, don't work out. Right now, if I were the 49ers and I could ideally add one player to my secondary, I think Jalen Ramsey makes a ton of sense. He probably makes more sense than Jair Alexander. Why? Because Alexander has to start at the outside corner spot. And the Niners have Renardo Green and Demo Lenore, who they want to start at the outside corner spot. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But if you have Ramsey's best spot is in the slot right now and inside. I think his future is either in the slot or at safety. And the Niners have real needs in the slot and at safety. So if you want to win the Super Bowl, this guy carries a $16.7 million 2025 cap hit currently. The money would have to be, worked out. The compensation would have to be worked out, but the compensation could be low. The money might be somewhat reasonable, and the need is severe. We're not talking about a 35-year-old player. We're talking about a 30-year-old player. We're talking about a guy who played at a pretty high level in 2024 and plays, 3 positions that you may need somebody at, and he can play all of them. So I like the idea. At first thought, I'm like, Jalen Ramsey, not a fit. Niners getting younger, cheaper. He's 30 years old. He makes some money. But you know what? Perimeter players are difference makers at the next level. There's a reason the Ravens jumped at Jair Alexander, because he's a difference maker. Now, he's a difference maker only at corner, outside corner. And I think the Niners, probably have guys that are as good or better. But for Ramsey, who's going to play inside or safety, I don't think the Niners have players that are as good or better. And they have the cap room to make it happen. And I'd be very interested to hear what Gus Bradley and Robert Saleh think about Jalen Ramsey and what he would look like in a 49er defense. So I would say it's still, if you said, hey, give me a percentage, it's not. I would say it's 15% chance. I think it's probably 85% chance he's going to go back to the Rams and play for McVay, where he won a championship. But the Rams are the Niners' number one competitor inside the division. And if I were the Niners, I would definitely get in that deal flow, make them, at worst, you make the Rams pay with a higher draft choice than they want to. At best, you may land a future Hall of Famer who could be an impactful guy that helps you get to your sixth Lombardi, or helps you win your sixth Lombardi trophy. All right, just some thoughts. Do I think it's going to happen? No. Would I like to see it happen? Yes. And I think it makes sense. The more you look at it, there's a lot of factors here where this thing really is a win-win-win. All right, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueg Show. Thanks to Claw Daddy Arcades and LearnKey Upskill Academy for sponsoring the video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krueg Show on YouTube.